Hey everybody, today in LAMA Talk, we're going to be discussing a conversation with living legends, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, my name is Gio Perez. I want to thank you for tuning in to LAMA Talk. I'm here with Stephen Reich, and we're going to be talking about this discussion we saw on Benny the Jet's page on Facebook. I know Benny the Jet's been doing a couple videos here and there. He gets together with some other masters and talk about how martial arts used to be in the old days, you know, when they were coming up in martial arts. And I mean, the discussion was pretty good.
It was a pretty powerful panel.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, they think, what do they call it? The Gathering of the Legends?
Gathering
like
of Legends.
Yeah.
I mean, but he said living legends.
Living legends. Well,
yeah.
Well,
yeah, and it was, yeah, they are. I mean, and it was pretty cool. I know I've seen other videos with Benny, with other guests, but on this panel, I know they had 8 people there. I know the discussion was about the way they used to practice before. I mean, for example, one of the topics they hit was Bushido. And I know that Benny the Jet and Steve Sexton and all these guys, they're really, they come from a different time,
right.
versus somebody starting out martial arts now. So their thing was what was the origin of martial arts, which was Bushido, being able to have that honor in practicing martial arts.
Right,
and
the
code of honor, right? And, but nowadays, you're watching things like MMA, and I know they hit that point too, and how, now, you see MMA, I mean, now you're watching almost like you're watching a WWE fight, and the biggest paycheck is the guy who's getting the most views, but because he's being so aggressive towards the other guy and having this grudge match.
Right, everything's a grudge match now.
Right,
but I think that they're hyping up everything as a grudge match. So there is no Bushido.
No.
They want it. It's like, even if there is, they don't want, it's like, yeah, I know you guys are really good friends, but like, don't talk about that. Like, you hate him and he hates you.
It's a show. It's a show. It's a show. Yeah.
Now go out there and kill each other.
Right. Yeah. No. And you see that happening. And after the fight, it's like, okay, yeah, cool, it's a good fight, whatever.
Right.
You see some of those fights.
When it's over, it's always just like,
thanks, man. Thanks a lot, man. I got $1 million in my pocket now. You know, so, I mean, you see it with a bunch of MMA fighters now, right? I wasn't a big, I'm still not a big, I don't like to go see MMA fights, unless there's maybe a big MMA fight it's like really hyped up, then I'll go watch. But for a long time, I didn't, go see MMA fights because I didn't agree with what they were doing.
Right. You didn't like the showiness.
No, I didn't like that at all. And I know maybe these guys, maybe the guys in the panel would probably agree that they probably wouldn't, they were not, supporting some of these shows. But now, it's more than just martial artists watching these shows. I mean, you have...
Right. It's big business now.
Yeah, it's a whole... anybody, whether you practice martial arts or not, then you're watching these shows.
Right. You don't want to be a good martial artist anymore. No. You just want to be a famous martial artist.
Right.
And a lot of people, one of them mentioned how, people aren't sticking to basics anymore and building from there and growing. They don't have the patience for that anymore. Or at least that's the vibe you're getting from this discussion, is that they feel that nowadays, people are impatient. They want a little more instant gratification.
Right.
And, the one, used learning a musical instrument as an example. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was great. He said, nowadays, people don't want to learn the basics. They just want to learn a song.
Right.
And they don't want to build up to being able to play the song. They just just show me how to do it. And I think that in martial arts, there is some truth to that. I think there are people that come into martial arts studios saying, I want to be this. Make me that.
When can I be a black belt?
Right.
Can I be a black belt in 6 months?
Right. And I think that's kind of what they're getting at in that discussion, is that, nowadays they're kind of rushing through it a little bit, and and Bushido is the cost.
Right. and I mean, and I think the reason is because what people are watching on TV. You know, they want to cut through everything and then just learn everything that's effective or that they see that's effective. I mean, you see arm bars, you see, boxing, kick, like straightforward kicking. You rarely see, certain locks and this and that in competition, but there's only a few that actually work within that, in that
Plus,
field.
They're exposed. I mean, more people, when it comes to martial arts, are exposed to MMA examples of what it's like, which is that attitude that, everything Steve Sexton was saying about people disrespecting and stuff. And when we were younger, we had like Chuck Norris movies and Bruce Lee movies. And, it was like you saw this like, honorable, examples from the movies. Right. That was our influence, know.
But, I mean, it's great that you still have these guys who have that belief, in Bushido. And then, I would say if I'm a parent, let's say if I'm a parent, I mean, it depends what type of parent you are. You either want your kid to, practice something like MMA, or you will put him in a structured martial arts school, which is, for example, a school from these guys, who have an actual a structured martial arts where they could start learning the basics on everything. And then not only go out there and fight and mess up your neck or have messed up discs or nothing like that, but you actually learn martial arts and live that way. Have a way of life.
Right, the martial way.
The martial way, right?
Which I think Michael Jai White mentioned about, the just training as a lifestyle. Right. And, and part of that is building character and being a better person, which is totally chucked out the window when you look at MMA. I mean, or MMA today. Right. I don't know if that's like the UFC, if that's how they originally intended it, but nowadays it's kind of manifested into like they're saying it's a big show. It's all for making money, endorsements, and being a character like in wrestling. They have to be bad guy against good guy, or who are you going to root for? And it's got to be a grudge match. Right. And, so none of that better person, better character code, which which older students recognize and identify with martial arts. Right. It's all absent now. Or appears to be absent. I'd like to think it's still there. Right. I don't want to think it's all gone. No. But I do think, especially from their generation, I think looking back at, from their point of view, that's probably how it looks.
I mean, it was hard before. I mean, I know they spoke about how they were not practicing with equipment before. How they didn't have mats. They were
and now it's concrete. Too good.
Right. Now, I mean, I remember some of the teachers talking about lawsuits and all this other stuff that happened. I mean, I think one person could ruin it for everybody else, And I think, you're absolutely right. Some of the masters, you're absolutely right. Before, I mean, without equipment, you had to develop your arms, you had to develop your fist, your shins. So you were able, you were prepared, to get to that higher level black belt status,
like Kyokushin or Masayama.
And you see those. I mean, you still see that, but not so much here in America. I mean, you see it more like in Japan and Korea,
they can get away
China.
With it,
they're able to practice that way. But here, it's like you have to be careful doing something that might be too harsh, So,
right. Well, look, I admit I like training. I don't want anything to interrupt my training. Right. So like, look, when I was in Taekwondo, we padded up kind of like football players. I had forearm pads so blocks didn't hurt. I had shin and instep pads. I had a chest protector. I had headgear. I mean, you felt a lot more confident in going in there and getting hit because you knew it wasn't going to inflict that much damage. Right. And to me, because as much as I appreciate the value of tasting a little bit of the reality and feeling some pain and having to work through that, and I think that builds a level of character that, a lot of people don't experience with all that protection, but I want to be protected so I can train more. Right. I mean, I'm kind of conflicted. I think that you shouldn't ignore practical on that level, maybe one day a week, you know, give them like a little taste of that, but it's dangerous. And I want to be able to, you know, I don't want to like limp out of my class every night.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no. And then, I mean, but it also depends on the teacher that you have, because some of the teachers you'll have, they'll kind of drop down to kind of the level of the student. But then there are some teachers who are just black and white. I mean, you're going to learn this way and you have to reach that, you know, that mountain, you know? And if you're not there, then you just, you know, either quit or you keep going.
Right, suck it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, and some, you know, that it depends on the teacher, right?
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
And it depends on the students too. I mean, I think there's some students that want more, you know, they want to learn certain things. I mean, they want to go, you know, they get motivated by fighting. I think this was, for example, Benny the Jet. I mean, he used to practice traditional martial arts. He's practicing traditional martial arts, but he went to a different avenue, which was kickboxing. So was this his teacher that, you know, said, hey, Benny, you know, we're gonna, you know, show your skills and, you know, fighting with another man? Or was it his own decision that he decided to actually get into the ring and actually see if the skills he was learning were good enough on a real practical level,
right.
You know? And that's a decision that I think not every student does. I mean, some students just want to practice for the longevity, and then there's some other people who just wants to compete. I mean, everything has a price. I mean, I think the students that get into competition or get into a more physical part of that martial arts, I mean, you feel it in your body. I mean, you know, age gets to you. I mean, your wrist. I know if you see Benny the Jet's hands and stuff, I mean, you could see, you know, his broken wrists. You'll see damaged, you know,
the results years of training.
Right. And this was his choice. But then there's some other people that don't want to go, you know, that route, that just want to practice martial arts and just stay healthy.
Right.
You know?
Well, maybe one of the things they're talking about is how back in their day there wasn't a variety of ways you could train martial arts as there is today, which maybe is what you're getting at.
Right.
That, you know, nowadays people have different goals.
Right.
You know, and, you know, I mean, not everybody's goal is the code and the lifestyle. You know, I mean, you know, that's my code,
right,
you know,
right.
But people, you know, some people like, look, remember Taibo was a thing. And it's like, it's hard for me to condemn that fully unless your goal is practical self-defense. Well, then I don't think you're going to reach that goal there. But if it's fitness and you want something a little more interesting than your usual aerobics, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No,
you know, if you train to compete. I mean, I remember I left my Taekwondo school because it wasn't practical enough.
Right.
But I argued with my instructors. I'm like, don't you want a little more like don't you want it to work on the street when it counts?
Yeah.
And they were into competition. They're just like, I'm very content being a champion and training and competing. Right. And, you know, okay, you know.
That's one of the reasons I love Hapkido. You know, and I know one of the masters there is a Hapkido master. Mm. And the reason I love Hapkido is because anybody could come and actually train Hapkido. Doesn't matter what age. You know, you could have a little kid, an older person come and actually learn. You know, and you could learn
very broad.
Yeah, so anybody could come in and practice. But if I tell you, okay, I'm going to get an old man to come and practice Taekwondo, hey, old man, you're going to kick up here. You know, no, it's not going to happen, you know?
Right.
But Hapkido, you could adapt to so many things within that art. I mean, there's probably other arts that you could adapt to in practice that anybody could come in and practice. But, you know.
Right. But it goes back to your point about goals.
Right.
Because I remember in Taekwondo we had, like, the guy who first taught me how to write my resume was this old gentleman who was at my Taekwondo school. He was, you know, I think he was just a colored belt. He was not I don't even think he was an intermediate student yet. Right. But he went there and he trained. I mean, he had a really long white beard, you know, nice old man. And he just was into it, you know, he got into it. And his goal was just to see how good he could get at his age, you know, and just see what he could accomplish. And I respected the hell out of him for that. You know, I mean, I think of, the late Anthony Bourdain, the food guy. I don't know if you've ever watched his show, but he, in his 50s, started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because his wife became, she got into it to lose weight after her pregnancy, and she got so into it, she started competing and became a champion. And it rubbed off when he was in his 50s. They had quite an age difference. Cool, and he got real into it all the way, I mean, it was amazing. He lost all this weight. He stopped smoking, so look, and he said, it's not really, I don't think I'm ever going to be in the octagon and I'm not, that's not what it's about. I just want to see all these little shits and, see how far I can get with them,
I mean, putting yourself at you want to, it's your own, I would say your own level, your own balance. You're trying to find your own balance.
Right.
And I think what the, martial artists, you're trying to find balance, like these guys that are on that panel speaking. I mean, I think all of them found balance within martial arts. I mean, you look at Michael J. White. I mean, he's doing martial arts, but he's also doing martial art movies. Yeah. So he found that avenue. That's what he likes to do. And then he also, I think he likes to teach martial arts and also fight choreography and stuff. Yeah. So he found that avenue within martial arts. And you got some of the other guys who practice, different styles, and they found balance, and they've continued to practice because they find that that's what feeds them. If it wouldn't feed them, they wouldn't be practicing anymore. What do they need it for? But no, they still have that purpose. They still have the drive to come up, keep talking about martial arts, keep practicing martial arts. I got a chance. I mean, I've practiced with Sensei Benny before at House of Champions, and I also practiced with him on a class he gave on Dragon Fest last year. Now, what I remember about that is that you saw Benny the Jet, and he was doing everything. He wasn't just telling you what to do, but he was actually doing it with the students. And some of the students couldn't even keep up. So at his age and still doing it, still practicing that way, I mean, it motivates martial artists.
That's my new goal.
Yeah. No, but think about it. I mean, these guys found those avenues, and then they're just there because they're inspiring people. I think Benny the Jet is doing these videos, putting them up because he wants to inspire the new generation that's coming up of martial artists. Yep. The new students they have, that they have under them, and then they're able to watch. They actually have some footage on them where they're able to watch, and then they're listening to this wisdom if they want to take it or not. I like my teacher used to say, you could bring a horse to water. It's up to him if he wants to drink.
Right.
So so that's what I see. I just want to say that I'm very honored to have the opportunity to be able to speak on this conversation with the legends. I want to thank you for your martial art contribution and your wisdom that you had shared with us and other martial artists out there. Do you have anything else to say?
No, just thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. We certainly appreciate it as martial artists.
Yes, thank you so much. You guys, you could check out that video in Benny the Jet's Facebook page. He's got that video and some other videos, so check that out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and don't forget to hit that bell. Thank you so much. Have a great day.